listeners and readers of Awards Watch. I am your host of the Awards Watch podcast today, your editor in chief, Eric Anderson. It's been a minute since we've done a state of the race in our award season Oscar race, and now we have a few things to talk about in a post Golden Globes, post BAFTA nominations, post Oscar nominations. We are recording this now just the day after the DGA Awards, which, as we know, went to Paul Thomas Anderson for one battle after another. So, obviously, I can't do this by myself. I could, but I'm not going to. So, with me is executive editor Ryan McQuade.
Rise and shine, folks.
And associate editor Sophia Ciminello.
What time is it? PTA time.
Exactly. Let's kind of work our way maybe a little bit backwards. We'll sort of reverse engineer this since the DGA did just happen. It's very fresh. And I think it's the thing that we want to talk about because it has been the thing that for many people, they were really kind of riding on this to be a potential game changer for the season, or just kind of tell us what we already knew. So very much this was a perceived battle between Paul Thomas Anderson and Ryan Coogler for Sinners. And Anderson came in as the very clear front runner, with Coogler as a potential but very unlikely upset. And that's exactly what happened. So I want to talk to each of you specifically about the DGA win, what it means in context with exactly where the race is now, which is 5 weeks from the Oscars, and a month from kind of where we really talked about this a lot. Ryan, do you want to kick that off?
Do you want me to kick that off? That's the real question. Okay. So, not that I need to give a brief goddamn history lesson to some of these people out there in the world, but I'm going to. Which is that Eric has had us here for many years already, and I've known Eric for we're going on, I think 7-8 years I've known Eric. And I know it's a long time. And from my understanding is that once we get to this stage of the race, nominations, but wins matter. And that includes critics wins, that includes televised wins, that includes guild wins, that includes then the wins obviously leading up to Oscar night. So they can tell us a tale of where we're at. And it seemed like people forgot that wins happened in the last couple of weeks. And that while the Oscar nominations did happen, and Sinners got 16, got the record, that's incredible. It seemed as if there was because maybe people are bored of the inevitability that was one battle after another, dominating, the big top prizes at Critics' Choice and at the Globes, and the BAFTA long list, the SAG nominations. There was a record there, and its dominance overall with critics groups as the number one film that has won the most Best Pictures, the most Best Director prizes, the most adapted screenplay prizes, and done really well for itself. And that 16 really, really hit as if like this was this number that was so crazy big that the 13 that one battle got felt like it was 4 to some people. Felt like it was single digits. It completely underperformed. It missed one of its categories. And the idea is that like technically Sinners didn't even max out itself. Well, 1 or 2 of its categories for sure. But really, realistically, it kind of got the exact amount that we thought it was going to, based off of, the Kate Hudson of it all, the history with that race. We don't need to, Eric and I, you and I, we talked about that on the morning of the nominations, where it's like, this is a category where it is just continuously punishing black performers and black women specifically in that category. And it's frustrating and annoying. And especially for a newcomer, it's very, very tough to make it in, especially against people that have been previously nominated, veterans of the industry, and oh, by the way, white women, just in general. But at this point of the race, all it was a 16-13. And it felt like people were just tying themselves into knots in their little craniums, trying to figure out what it all meant. And completely ignoring the BAFTA nominations, which won battle. Yes, it was one more, but it still was the leader on the morning there. Completely ignoring the European Film Awards, completely ignoring leading up to any logical sense that you should be going with what is won already before you make big swings and big switches, because the race would dictate that. You have no evidence to support your claims. And so last night, for the whole week, honestly, leading up to this, we had DGA, and this was like the most foregone conclusion. Maybe not PGA. Like PGA, sure, if you want to have that conversation, it's up in the air. That's probably the more fluid one that we'll have over the next couple of weeks. Same with SAG ensemble, sure. This was pretty set in stone. And I don't think it was a tight race. I think that all season long he's been getting standing ovations. It's his time. He's got 14 Oscar nominations. Like, he's going to win this prize. And yet people just couldn't help themselves. And then if you see the videos of the reaction to his win in the room, his speech, everything, everybody's speeches did really well last night. I thought that Coogler's speech was very good. I thought PTA's and Leo's intro was great. I thought Spielberg with Chloe was wonderful. I thought Del Toro was hilarious. And then, there's the other guy. And so I think that this was much ado about nothing. And it is a problem that is recurring over and over again, where it's that the logic starts to slowly slip out of the brain. And logic from the standpoint of that, I had somebody this week who is I'm going to say it. I had a person who runs a website with 3 letters in it telling me that this win was, if Coogler won, then the race was over. But this win at DGA for PTA doesn't matter to them. And then they're retweeting about how how excited they are that PTA won. Hypocrite. That's not how it works. If you're going to say it works for one, it works for the other. So what are we talking about here? And at this point, we haven't seen Sinners win anything significant up to this point on telecast or with the guilds. I mean, we'll talk about the BSC as well and how that was an upset. But some of you people just need to sit down, touch grass, and log off.
Okay, with that, Sophia, what are your thoughts on the context of Anderson's DGA win pre last night and what it means after?
It was incredible to see him win. I was honestly surprised, just remembering that this was only his 3rd nomination from the DGA.
Crazy.
Like, he should have been nominated for every single feature, I would think, as a
Licorice Pizza
PTA
and
fan.
There Will Be Blood.
And There Will
Yes.
Be Blood. Yeah, those or the other 2. And I think, one of the things that I've said all season is that when I first saw One Battle After Another, it was a predominantly industry heavy screening, and they ate it up. What have we been hearing from red carpet interviews all year, from articles that interview people in the industry? They love this movie. This is not just a critics thing. Also, I think before, leading up to this win, this was something that PTA obviously needed in order to win the Oscar. And he has had that frontrunner narrative, especially in the director category all season, that it's his time. He's been nominated so many times. He's so respected by especially the new wing of the Academy. I think people that are getting membership now and coming up now, everyone wants to work with this man. If you hear any interview from actors, they all mention him, that they want to work with him. And I think with directors, why I always thought, this win would happen is because he is in a very young lineup this year. He's the veteran. And at DGA, Del Toro was there too, but he's already won before. And this season has been the story of one battle, and PTA specifically, I think, is this being his coronation year. So this win for me, there was never really a doubt until I think this past week. I think Ryan, you're absolutely right. Once Sinners got the 16 nominations, it just kind of usurped everything else for some reason. And I think people started reporting on these phantom momentum shifts, I will call them. But we didn't have any evidence of any momentum shifts at all. And now we really don't because PTA ended up winning anyway, like we all predicted and thought would happen. And now this win, I think it's historic for him. And considering, I think, the outcome of this race historically, 18 of the past 20 winners have won the Oscar. That tells me he's winning the Oscar. And this isn't a case where those weird things happen, right? A this is not a Parasite situation because last time I checked, Sinners didn't win the Palme d'Or. Sinners didn't have this groundswell of being this thing that everyone was excited about. No one was really that excited about 1917. It also didn't have as many Oscar nominations and as much branch-wide support as One Battle has all season. And I think people want to and are tempted to make comparisons to past races, but they just never work. Each season is its own, each film is its own thing, each person is their own, like it's their own unique thing. And so for me, it was very frustrating, I think, too, to see that people in this past week were comparing the director of There Will Be Blood and One Battle After Another and Phantom Thread to the director of Vox Lux. That to me was just quite odd. It's not an apples to apples comparison. It doesn't work. It's he's a veteran, and these I feel like people are just stretching and trying really hard to make something turn it into something it's not. And for me, what the race says now is it's been what it's always been in this category. And I think in a time which we've had recently of picture and director syncing up, this is telling me also that I think One Battle is going to succeed at PGA, and this is a picture director situation, and it's always been.
Yeah, it's an interesting moment. Last year, DGA and PGA were the same night, which was honestly so much fun. I don't think I don't think they want to replicate the mania and the energy from what happened last year, but I kind of wish they would because
you mean like people running over?
It was incredible. It was a 5-minute drive from the Hilton to the Fairmont, but we were all, scampering out for our Ubers and cars and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But it's not really that different this year because the voting period was the same. Essentially, it was the exact same weekend. Well, we're not going to have the PGA for 3 more weeks. That voting is done. There was no, it was done before the DGA Awards even started. So that really kind of is even more concrete in my mind, that it is just going to be One Battle. This isn't the type of year or films where a split occurs. And so what's happening with a lot of this conversation is people really trying to square peg a round hole here and force the idea of it so that, that there can be a shared wealth, as if that's a goal. And it's not usually that's just kind of not really how it works. I understand the people that are very big fans of Sinners and that record-setting nominations. They want to see fruition come from it, and I absolutely get that. But it is every year to its own, and it is going to be really, really frustrating. I understand when slash if Sinners wins maybe a couple of Oscars and not picture and director. And there will be just a lot of anguish about that. But
That's what the money's for.
The thing that's kind of frustrating overall is that you do have two really great films that are really 1 and 2. And each year we kind of get further and further away of being able to appreciate when we have a lineup really as good as we do. This is probably for me the best picture 10 since they started. I don't think there is like a bad film in the bunch. I like F1. I can enjoy it.
There's one for me, but it's not F1.
There's one for me, but it's not F1.
But I mean, I would take this 10 versus any that has, you know, a Green Book or an Extremely Loud in it. Like any time.
I think the 2023 one is also
very, very good. Very
strong.
good.
But yeah, I agree with you.
What I do wish, and I think part of this is the age of increased social media, and sort of what I was complaining about the other day, where I was half joking saying that I kind of want to gatekeep Oscar predictions. There's a lot of voices out there right now, and everybody really wants to be heard, and they want their frustration or predictions to have a lot of traction. And then, you know, some people just will not stop talking. Just 800 tweets saying the same thing over and over again this last kind of week. And then suddenly last night was, well, I guess the race is done. And it's like, did you just fall off the truck? Because come on.
On that point, I took a note from our friend Karen Peterson, who said, like, you'll be happier off of Twitter. Like, there is no, like, what's happening there is not what's happening in the race. This is just people, you know, airing all of their feelings and emotions about something that I think, you know, people are really, really passionate about a number of movies that are in this race and people in this race. And I think that this just becomes an echo chamber in a place where people can, you know, feed off of that energy. And if you take a step back and if you actually look at what is being said outside of it by people in the industry, it's not what's going on there. And it's not really affecting the race in the same way. And it's not, we don't have a Carla Sophia Gascon controversy that's coming from Twitter. Like, that's not what's happening this year, knock on wood.
It already did for the Seurat guy. It didn't matter for the big films. Yeah.
Right. And I think the other part, Eric, that you said that I think is so true and that it's important for everyone to keep in mind is that when we're in this era of 10 films getting nominated for Best Picture, what we've started to see really that voters are doing is there are a lot of films that have many nominations. Sentimental Value has 9. Like, who expected that to happen? You have movies with, I think, so many that you can't look at a film with a lot of nominations and necessarily say, well, okay, it has to hit this percentage of wins for these nominations to matter, because every film is going to end up, I mean, except for maybe one, but there are going to be some films that just don't, it's not possible for them to get many wins out of their nominations because they're all nominated in the same category.
Yes.
So it's, I think one of those things too that you have to keep in mind is that even if you have a lot of nominations and you don't get a lot of wins, yes, that can sting, but it's just a symptom, I think, of and an effect of the era that we're in right now with how people are voting.
Eric,
very much so. There's like 14 total films nominated.
Yeah, it's very low.
Right.
That have hogged up all of these totals.
Yeah.
When it used to be 20, 25 films.
Yeah.
That is a very different world.
Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but was the DGA and PGA voting period during the announcement of the Oscar nominations and the BAFTA nominations? Like,
right after the voting started right after, so the nominations.
Okay,
the 22nd.
So that even makes it even more apparent that this is a front runner and that this is going to win. We don't get splits. Hear me out. We don't get splits unless there is some massive divide between the technical achievement and the movie with passion and the movie that becomes a discovery and people that want to be in the room with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, sorry, Sophia, I always bring this one up.
I know what's coming.
You know what's
I know,
coming,
it's
so
fine.
just take it. But Power of the Dog, people didn't really want that, and it changed, and it became Coda, and that still was the directorial achievement, and people, respected that enough. But when it came down to it, if you would have, Sophia and I have said, if Sean Eater was nominated, I don't know if she would have, if Jane Campion would have won. You look at Green Book and you look at Roma. There was just like, oh, do we really have to give it to Roma? Like, like we can give it
It's
to
the
something else.
prestige art, the art type of film where we see that kind of split that can happen when it can be called cold or divisive or those kinds of things that just don't apply, right, in
But
our
you know what's,
situation.
but the funny thing about this is it's like one battle was in its front runner position before the Oscar noms came out. And then people started trying online, after Sinners got in there, put that in the front runner position. There were just as many online voices screaming of their disapproval of the ending of Sinners or the second half or whatever than there were for people saying one battle was toothless. And so at the end of the day, they kind of canceled each other out and they don't mean anything. It's the same thing with the Hamlet people that say like, "Oh, this is a manipulative, crying machine movie." Like no, I'm not. I don't
No,
agree
I'm
with
just
them.
laughing because you called it Hamlet like Spielberg did
Oh,
last
did I
time.
say? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Hamnet.
Yes, you
Sorry,
did. Yes, you did.
I didn't mean to. But the point being is that these online narratives haven't worked this year. And what's really more dangerous is that, and I don't care about, somebody with 15, 16 Twitter followers, saying the same message over and over again. We have giant publications doing massive um, just really inconsistencies. And that feeds into those people and not understanding your role in all this because Eric, Sophia, and myself, we have been in rooms with voters. We've interviewed voters. We've talked to voters. We've been not just in Los Angeles, but in New York and in other places. Eric knows people. But we don't let all
Sure,
we don't
but
let all that
that's
we don't let all that judge our opinions about it as well because there are some people that hate certain films and some people that don't, but you get a general gist when you hear about bake-offs or you hear about different things or what is from the commonality when they're talking with their friends. Most of these people aren't talking to anybody outside of the people on Twitter Spaces. So like that's really, any of that stuff that doesn't really matter. It is just you have to separate the fact that this industry has not spit this movie back out. And they love it through and through. It is an achievement of, it's a big grand epic. It's the type of films that they want to make. PTA's up on that stage. He's got a great narrative for himself. Adam Somner last night, I'm talking about that again. Like that's a big narrative that a lot of them really connect with and really love. And there is a little bit of like this man has done his dues. He's got a 30-year career. It's one of the best reviewed films of the year. This isn't going to be hard. And it has potentially an acting win on the board. It's got the potentially the editing win on the board. It might have cinematography now on the board, and Sinners doesn't have an acting win. And 9 times out of 10, what we've noticed over the last couple of years is that the acting branch has to go with your film. And yes, even if you want SAG Ensemble, you need the acting win, individual win. Sinners doesn't have that, you know. It's like, and because like I guess the closest one would be the delusionment of Delroy Lindo that's happened over the last couple of weeks with Marcia Gay Harden, or Michael B. Jordan, which I mean, you got people predicting Ethan Hawke, which is Delulu. You know what I mean? So
It would be funny
well,
if Chalamet found himself in the same situation that he was in last year, just in the Brody position, if he won BAFTA and then lost SAG, like on
very
a
much so.
one-off.
well,
He's
and
his
there are definitely people that are predicting that, and that Chalamet will not be able to be the first person to repeat SAG wins, and that Michael B. Jordan is an easier choice for SAG. it's it's not impossible.
So is Leonardo
Um,
DiCaprio in the film that might win it. Like,
sure, but I think DiCaprio kind of really needs to have
I
shown
know.
some strength before
What if it's like
now.
what if it's a 2020 actress situation where everybody wins one thing, you
Well, I
know?
think there are a couple of races where that's kind of has shown a little bit of that. And you actually mentioned cinematography, because what we had also on the same day as DGA, but different time zone clearly, was the British cinematographers who went for one battle. And that was interesting. And that BSC is not like a great crossover with the Oscars. They picked Poor Things recently. They're not really like in line there.
Pick the brutalist.
Yes, they did. I think it would be. I think what the American Society of Cinematographers does will be much more interesting. We saw Critics' Choice went with Train Dream, so we have already a split race in that category, which is kind of fascinating to me. And I think for a lot of people, the idea of a historic win for Autumn Gerald Arkapaw for Sinners is it's a big deal. But I think what's happening too is the idea of it is has sort of clouded the potential for it not to happen. So what's going on a lot with Sinners, and I do genuinely feel bad if it does not come through, is that people are getting their hopes up for something, and the disappointment for it is going to be pretty massive. Um, I, I back in the day with with Brokeback Mountain, that was a moment that like broke my understanding and affection for the Oscars in a way that never really kind of was repaired. So there, you just have to kind of try and prepare for potential outcomes so that if the thing that you want to happen doesn't happen, it's less painful. But
Yeah.
all of that being said, I think cinematography is a pretty open race.
To answer what you were saying there, Eric, about sort of expectations for Sinners, and then talk about cinematographer, which is such an open race right now. I will say this: it's like, yes, manage expectations because a movie got 16 nominations, broke through, especially for the horror genre. Like that's an enormous thing. Like it checks off a lot of boxes that have never happened before. But also, like Warner Brothers has like showed their hand the last 4 weeks on every social media platform whatsoever as to the film they care about pushing for. I said on this show at Night of the Globes, Mike and Zaslav are sitting next to PTA at their table. I don't know where, Pam there was, but the point, I think she was last night sitting with, because Landon Johnson, I saw his videos in the room, that she was sitting with the Sinners table there. But it feels as if like they and we've talked about this at least with some reps. It's like they wanted to get Sinners in to the conversation, but they know they have a winner with one battle after another. And when you know you have a winner, you start doing these all up lists, these individual posts that the social media teams for Warner Brothers and One Battle have been doing feel much more intimate and much more also relevant for the film and what's going on in our country as well. That also plays into this a little bit as well. Not all the way, but it does. What's going on in places like Minneapolis and around the country, especially down here. Like I spotted a detention center in San Antonio, a hugely Hispanic population down here. And the fight is going on daily for it. And it weirdly feels that this movie that Paul Thomas Anderson made has become more and more relevant, and people know that. And then you kind of go into the cinematographers conversation. You're right, Eric. Like there has been, because the critics wins have suggested this outcome. and that she has won the most critics wins and that it would be historic. And yes, like Sinners has won a ton of critics prizes, but when it has come to telecast and starting now with, we'll see with the guilds how that turns out. But I think the Train Dreams surprise at CCA was another one of those where Sophia and I had this conversation like, if Ryan Coogler was winning director, why didn't he win Critics' Choice? John M. Chu won last year. So, like, why wouldn't he win at a very friendly home field advantage place where they were also the leader of nominations that day for that particular place? And the same thing goes for a film like that. So, with Train Dreams winning there, I was like, wow, it's a great win. I think it's a beautiful looking film and very well shot. But then Bauman winning this shows the strength of One Battle, particularly international. And I think that I kind of expect him to win the BAFTA, and we'll see how we'll see how the cinematographer branch does. They're a very fun group of people. I mean, didn't last year wasn't it Maria that won that award as well? So they're not as predictive as like you're saying, Eric, as even the British cinematographers. But we saw that one come that nomination then coming a mile away. But I feel as if there's so much impressive work with one battle after another. It's so sprawling. Like talking with Andy Jurgensen, the editor, that's such a beast of a film to shoot and then to edit and everything. There's a lot of admiration for that, and also the fact that a lot of PTA's collaborators have not been celebrated before, and these are people that have worked with him on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 films. So that kind of happens too in recent memory, where like everything everywhere all at once gets 6 or 7, and same with Oppenheimer. And I mean, Honora maxed out last year.
Almost,
So if only it, like I don't think Euro was ever going to win, but like
if only,
but like
he was
but it,
number 2
in the realistic, no, in the realistic, sense of the word, like he was number 2 in a lot of ways. But yeah, so we see that trend happening. And to your point, Eric, also of like 14 films in this race, they're gonna see even less than that if they're having to play catch up, because of the fact that they're really gonna only see, I think, 5 films, maybe 4, like to make the finalization of their votes. So that's why like predicting F1 or predicting Avatar even or something like outlier picks, like you have to kind of judge that at your own peril, because it gets smaller and smaller as we get to different voting blocks of all of it. But the cinematographer races, I mean, it's very fascinating. It could take one battle's win total from 5 to 6 to 6 to 7, 6 or 7. So there you go.
Sophia, I want to let you speak on this before we kind of get some closing elements of here.
Yeah, not a 6-7 reference there. I have always thought that cinematography was a category that could be really up in the air, because it just never really made sense to me as a sweeper, even early in the season, just because I think I had also just heard some negative comments about the lighting in Sinners, but I know it's a lot of people, think it's very beautiful, and there is also the historic element to a win for Autumn Dorado Arcapah that's there. But I think in my head, I've always had this weird feeling that Train Dreams could win ASC, but I never necessarily thought that One Battle would start winning in these places. But I did think that, when you think about who is in a cinematography or cinematographer's branch, I would imagine that the extreme technical precision of One Battle After Another would appeal to them. The VistaVision, those cameras, that type of work, I feel like that is catnip for a branch like this. And I think if you do have One Battle winning BSC and BAFTA, because I think I will predict it to win at the BAFTAs with this BSC win, then it's a really serious conversation that it becomes our category winner. I don't think it's locked and loaded yet, though. I think we really need to see BAFTA and ASC before we make a decision here, just because these guilds can be so finicky and inconsistent when it comes to what's going to happen at the Oscars. But I will just say, I was just in London and I did notice that Michael Bauman had a Q&A this weekend for the film there. So I was like, I wonder if that's
He's shooting
something
a film right there, right
there.
now. It's very, very,
Yeah, so
yeah.
he's
Interesting.
campaigning with the Brits, and I saw one battle after another again. I know I have a disease, but it was playing
Oh
at
my
the Prince
God.
Charles in 70 millimeter, and I just wanted to see it with a British audience. I was just
Hmm.
curious,
They
Yeah.
love it.
and it was they were laughing like it was The Naked Gun. Like it was. So if anyone doubts its comedy placement at the Globes, it's those
Hmm.
Europeans. But it was, I mean, it was a sold out show practically, and people are just they're still loving this movie, and it's February. It came out in September.
It's crazy.
So I want to talk about what happens next because we do have a pretty decent gap between the next major thing. Obviously, BAFTA is the next major event. That is the 22nd. We'll have a BAFTA conversation later. But what I'm really more drawn to are the voting periods at the end of this month and how they can or might impact the future because Oscar winner voting doesn't start till the 26th, it goes to the 5th. 2 days after that is the PGA. SAG Awards right after that. Both events happening in the middle of Oscar voting.
Yep.
Now, I only say this because I I think it can give enough cannon fodder for people to sort of continue this idea of uh okay, well, since Anderson won DGA, Oscar voters can say, no, we're going to do something different to change this momentum. That those comments are going to happen over the next 3 weeks. You can guarantee it. But I do think that the timing of all of these things within that same 1 week period is kind of fascinating. I mean, from my side, I don't really see I don't see the momentum that we have right now changing very much. I do think how the SAG Actor Awards, and I have to keep putting SAG on there because simply saying the Actor Awards is not enough. Maybe in a few years, but the SAG Actor Awards outcome is going to be an interesting part of this race. I think I think most have defaulted to Sinners being the cast winner. What if it's not? What if it is one battle? Then we're just in a period of sweeping at that point, and that's a whole nother animal. Um, I'll end there. But Sophia, first, what are your thoughts about what the end of this month looks like? Changes, potential momentum, movement, anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think the pieces will come out. I think people will try to change things, but also people will try to convince others that things are changing based on nothing in particular. So if you're listening to this, keep an eye out. Don't fall for it unless we have hard evidence. I know it's tempting to try to think of all of the possibilities of what can happen, but you've got to just stick to the evidence of what you have. And this is what we have right now. And I think too, the actor awards are what's interesting to me just because with their nominations, they truly this year proved themselves to be less relevant to me by not going with international performers. And what we saw at the Oscars, you have Wagner Moura in there, you have every person from Sentimental Value in there, and they didn't appear at SAG. So that tells me that despite crossover and the acting branch being the biggest branch, mm, I don't know. Could we have some differences? Last year we certainly did, and BAFTA was the place to look. But, we also, the voting didn't line up as well last year. But then sometimes I just think like, does it really matter? Like sometimes it does because you get to see a speech, but I think voters have their minds made up with who they're going with. So I think we can tie ourselves in knots thinking of how these things matter. But ultimately, I think most people know who they're voting for already. And when the catch up happens, then maybe they'll change their minds or maybe they'll hear a great speech, but I doubt it will be enough in many cases.
Yeah, right. Ryan, what do you think?
Most people told Sophia at the Gothams that night that One Battle After Another was winning Best Picture, and they were okay with it. And this is people that had movies that were nominated literally there on the night. Like this is an industry waiting to award this thing and celebrate it. They have made up their minds. It's people online that have not decided to just accept it. And once they accept it, and by outcomes that happen, then yes, then at that point I mean, like you could feel bad for a lot of films, Eric, not just the Sinners people would empathize with them. Like for yourself, like Hamnet, it's just mostly going to walk away with just Jesse at this point. Sentimental, but sentimental value. What is its total? Is it still in Sarsgaard? Is it international film? Do we get to have that conversation about original screenplay and how that is not as locked up as we want to have, as people want it to be? Because that's the other thing is that Sophia and I, yes, putting our cards on the table, we love One Battle After Another. But we've also had this
breaking news.
But we've had this prediction from April, and it's played out exactly the way that we said it has and that it would. So it's not like we have to jumble in our minds to make the strings connect. The strings are connecting. Others are the ones that are looking like a crazy meme right now and trying to make something happen because they're bored. Because you can't go to like just watch a new movie or some old films. They got to keep talking about this over and over again. And again, they tie themselves into knots. And to your point, Sophia, about SAG, like, yes, SAG, you want to say, oh, well, SAG didn't line up last year, the dates and stuff. Okay. She's right. Lily Gladstone. Lily Gladstone won the SAG, and everybody then just started changing their minds. And after Emma Stone, it won the BAFTA. So SAG is not 1000% the indicator that it could be, and it comes towards the end of it. I think, like Sophia, a lot of people have their minds made up. I think they vote early. Like I think a lot of people vote early because and especially the international voters, they vote early as well. I think that they're gonna love. I think they love One Battle. I think they're going to love sentimental value. They're going to love Hamnet. And I think that then where does Sinners lie in that? And I think that it's like, listen, Sinners getting 3 or 4 wins, that's still a great night. That's 25% of your win total. Ask Martin Scorsese. He's walked away with 2 or 3 films actually that have walked away with double-digit losses. Not many people say that in their lifetime. Nobody's crying for Martin Scorsese, which is crazy, but still, it still can be also the fact that Sinners is a great box office achievement. It has cultural impact. It'll be around forever. The film does exist as well too, but we're going to need to see those changes. I mean, there's tons of categories, quote unquote, still open. Like we assume that it'll be Tiana Taylor. We assume maybe it's still in Sarsgaard, but supporting actor feels like a coin toss still. Actor, we assume it's Chalamet. The only actor that still feels 100% safe is Jesse Buckley. But then there's those reviews of The Bride that'll come out. So who knows?
After voting.
After voting. You hope, voting. But then I mean, like there's categories still open, but also, Eric, this, we've had years where we predicted things in like October and November and they just kind of stay pat. But I think of last year with Anora where people were putting 5, 6 films in their top spots, trying to turn themselves, flip themselves over like pancakes or whatnot. And it ended up just being Anora because that was the one. And it had a path and it stayed and had a path the whole time. And yeah, it like we don't see splits anymore. Like splits you have to have something massive happen in order for a split to occur. And I don't see that. I don't see the urgency for a split either from the industry. Online,
yes.
The industry.
Go ahead, Sophia.
One more fun stat that I haven't seen any like trades point out or other pundits that I found is that One Battle After Another was nominated for International Feature Foreign Language Film at the César Awards.
Mhm.
And that is actually a really good predictor of an American film or an American co-production that can win Best Picture. Recent examples of that are Anora and
Mhm.
Oppenheimer being
Mhm.
the sole representative of, an Oscar Best Picture nominee that
Hmm.
has some sort of American sensibility being recognized there. So that just shows me that this is very strong with Europeans.
Absolutely. That is, I mean, all of this, when we talk about these things, it is anecdotal individually. They're anecdotal pieces of information or conversations that we have with people. It's all anecdotal, but when you put them together, they
Start
do
adding
that
it up.
does create a story. But what's great about where we are right now and why the comments of like this season is so long and so boring are so stupid to me is that we're done with the critics and journalists
Thank
air
God.
section of award season, and this weekend brought the guilds, and every all month long is just guild after guild who will really be able to tell us what they think. uh, Society of Composers and Lyricists was also this weekend, who did exactly what any of us thought that they were going to do.
Hmm.
Golden Sinners, I Lied to. There's no upsets or something outside, like exactly what we thought they were going to do. Uh, BSC gave us One Battle, which was the surprise, and hey, maybe this means something. DGA last night giving us One Battle, exactly what we thought it was going to be. So now we have costumes, makeup, animation, set decorators, visual effects, casting. Those are all coming in the next 3 weeks. And it will be for a couple of films the last stand for those that are looking for a best picture winner, a best director winner, and a path for both of those to happen. So it's never boring. February is a great month.
No,
I
it's not.
love February because it's all guilds. It's all the real stuff.
And then it's to March, and then we're done with it, and we can all rest. Like, I'm like, to me, after like seeing the speeches last night, I don't think I could get boring seeing someone that's getting their flowers after 30 years. Like, I don't see how that's a boring thing. Like, he is a staple in the industry, and people love his work. He's like Sophia said, he's very influential. He's a one of one, and to see his guild embrace him joke a little bit with his buddy Christopher Nolan and Del Toro. I can't wait to also see the DGA pre-conversation with the five of them too. Like, those are always my favorite conversations. I'm a little bummed that he's not going to be at the Santa Barbara one, but to each their own. Christopher Nolan didn't have to go to that in order to win his Oscar.
Too many things
But
happening. You've got
so many things
Olympics.
happening.
There's like too many things
Well,
happening.
and
Hmm.
Sophia said that she heard somewhere at a speech or whatever that he was giving
Yeah.
that he's already writing his
He
next thing, which
he
feels
said
very,
at the USC scripter in the video he sent in that he's writing right now.
which is crazy. So, like, I
Nice.
mean, yeah, I don't understand anybody that can say it's boring, because it's kind of like that quote in The Last Black Man in San Francisco. I was like, how can you hate something if you don't love it? And then so it's like, if you don't love this process, and you don't love like how long it takes, and how it can second guess you, but then it can also change on a dime, or it can be steady. Like, we've had years where it's very boring, but that doesn't mean that it's there's not history behind it, or cool wins, or the telecast itself will be great. Like, I'm excited
Well,
to
I
see what
mean,
Conan
the
does.
most of the people that make those kind of comments are the newbies in this,
Yeah, they're and
and
they're and they're focused specifically on one thing winning, which is
I just
nuts. Oh,
you're a fetus. When you grow up in play in this race, then we can talk.
oh my.
You guys
Sorry,
are
was
are
that
on
too
one today.
harsh? I don't know. It was a little
It's like
spicy, but
I'm
I don't
happy you
know.
won.
yeah.
It does get frustrating to see the that it's not that facts don't seep through in a world right now where they should.
I
Like,
just don't I also just don't like the creation of artificial villains to
yeah,
make your movie
yeah,
look
and that's
better.
not just that's not just that's not
Hamnet is not the New
there you
England
go.
Patriots. I'm gonna
Yeah,
say it.
yeah.
Is that a bad thing? Good thing? I don't really know.
I'll inform
Eric.
you later, but it's
Oh,
not
Okay,
good.
good. Good,
But
good.
people are, yeah, again, too much. Not
Yeah,
none of
I
my
mean,
business.
yeah,
it's like the same
it's
people that don't understand that Bad Bunny's an American. It's like you people are idiots. Move on.
yeah, sorry. We have cake and pie for dessert. Both are good. You might like one better than the other, but they're both great.
Oh
Just
man, some pie sounds really good depending on what it is.
yes, it does.
I've become
Okay.
more of a pie guy
Humble
late in
pie.
life. Yeah, some
Humble.
humble pie. Yeah. Well, Sophia and I have been on this ride since April. So like we're the ones that really have to hold fast to these predictions. But it's just ocean waves the rest of the way of the season.
Ocean waves.
Ocean
Ocean
waves.
waves.
That's where we are. Ocean waves. Ride it or crash out. I don't really care. All right. With that, I think we'll wrap for today. Otherwise, the spicy content is just gonna be a little
For the
too
after dark.
spicy. It
Yeah,
is. It's for the Patreon show.
dark.
Sophia, where can everybody find you and your work on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Sophia_Sim, Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Sophia Sim. You can find my writing at AwardsWatch. I will have probably by the time this episode comes out or shortly after my Wuthering Heights review, among other things from this season.
Excellent. Ryan, what about you?
You can find me at the Primrose Path at 11:30 p.m. Or you can just find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterbox, Blue Sky at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find all my work here at awardswatch.com. If you like podcasts, we have the Director Watch podcast. We're in the middle of our Chantal Ackerman series right now, and yeah, it's been a really really good series. I hope everybody's listening to that. Um, so go ahead and take a listen to the new episode later this week.
Yes, and you can find me at Backdan Cross, otherwise known as at Awards Watch Eric on Twitter and Awards Watch everywhere else.
You're at the hot spot for teeny boppers.
I'm telling you, that's exactly right. The high school.
Listening to Mo Bamba. Yeah.
All right. Yes. With that, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.